Hello, I'm Kay. I'm here to help you navigate the business side of art in a way that actually makes sense. We'll decode the business lingo, unravel marketing mysteries, and pave a clear path for you to thrive both creatively and financially. So grab your favorite brush, a fresh canvas, or just a cup of coffee. Welcome to the Artist's Guide to Business.
You know what takes as much courage as creating art? Sharing it with the world. And that's exactly what we are talking about today. We're talking about your website. But before you tense up thinking about technology, here's what nobody tells you. The most important skills for an effective website, you already have them. They're the same ones that you use in your studio every single day. Here's what I've noticed. As artists, we are perfectly comfortable learning complex new techniques for our art. We dive into new mediums, we master intricate skills, we develop our unique voices. But for some reason, when it comes to creating our websites or any other sort of tech-heavy situations, that confidence just disappears. So today I want to shift how you think about your website. Because here's the truth. The actual building of your website, that's not even the most important part. And you're already better equipped for this journey than you think. So let's start with something important. There's nothing wrong with hiring a web designer. There's absolutely nothing wrong with spending money on a website if that is the right choice for you. But it needs to be an informed choice, not just the only option that you have. All right, so let's get into some other truths about building your websites. Truth number 1, your creative skills are actually perfect for this. Think about what you already do as an artist. You understand visual composition and flow. You know how to tell stories through your work. You're experienced at presenting your art professionally. You solve creative problems every single day. These exact skills translate perfectly to creating an effective online presence. You just need to apply them in a new context and to a new medium. Truth number 2, your relationship with technology is part of your professional growth. Just like you didn't master your primary medium overnight, you don't need to master everything about websites immediately. What you need is enough understanding to make informed decisions about your digital presence. So, one of my favorite stories to tell about this is that earlier this year, I really needed to learn a lot of technology to build the business that I really want to build to serve artists. And that includes learning no code, learning databases, learning all this stuff that I have never touched before. So what I did was I immersed myself in spaces where I didn't necessarily understand the language that people were using. I started with small projects and, did what I could with what I did understand. And once you kind of, go through a level of what you do understand, eventually things will start to fall into place and click into place for you as you learn more and more. It's just that learning process. It's the same thing we do with our art. You can do it with technology too. This is one of the reasons I love artists is they are lifelong learners if they let themselves be, right? It's the same with if you learn a language. You can study it all day. You can test it. You can learn all the verbs, everything like that. But the way you really learn it is through immersion. Remember, even with technology, learning happens naturally through exposure and when you put yourself in the space where you need to know technology. You don't have to understand every single thing about it to enter that space, right? You can be a beginner. And it's okay to be a beginner. Understanding comes gradually through engagement and through trying new things. It's really about allowing yourself to be confused. Confusion is a normal part of learning, not a sign to quit and go running for everything that's not technical or digital. Think of website technology as just another tool in your professional toolkit. You don't need to become a programmer or any more than you need to become a chemist to understand like your paint materials, right? Like you don't have to make your own paints to use them. It's the same with technology and websites. So truth number 3, starting simple is smart. It's not settling. Your first website does not need to be your forever website. Just like your art practice has evolved, your online presence will too. What matters is building something that can grow with you and change as you learn more. Even for myself right now, I have a website, it's an artist's website, and it's not perfect. In fact, I sort of think it's really not perfect, and I won't get into it, but I know that I overworked it at one point, and it's not exactly how I want it to be. In fact, if I had peers or anyone look at it with a critical eye, I would probably cringe. But here's the thing. It is serving the needs of my business effectively right now. Strategically, I'm choosing to focus my energy elsewhere because I know that it's doing the baseline of what it needs to do. And if I put a lot of energy there, yeah, maybe it would be more perfect, but I don't need it to be more perfect right now. Does that make sense? So this is how to think about your website. It may not ever be perfect. It'll go through different iterations. But as you develop and as you change your business, you want to be able to be flexible with it, change it, and use it so that it's helping your business. Like I said, websites, they serve your business goals and not your ego. That is the hardest thing for artists and small business owners and anyone who has sort of a artful expression. It's so hard to act on that. And it's not because we're egotistical. I'm not calling anyone like, prideful or egotistical. It's just that we get so wrapped up in thinking like, oh, if I'm going to have people looking at this, I want it to look like the best artist's website they've ever seen. But good enough for now can also be strategic. And again, your website needs to change with your business. So what you start with today is probably not what you'll want or need in 5 years. And perfect really isn't profitable if it's preventing progress, right? Like having a perfect website or having no website as your only 2 options is going to hold you back. Success is measured by results and not necessarily aesthetics. The most successful artist websites often start with just like some essentials. Things like clear images of your work, your artist statement, a way to contact you, perhaps like a simple newsletter sign-up form so that people who like your work can touch base with you or keep in touch with you. And that's it. Everything else can evolve based on what you learn from actually using your site. Truth number 4, data is your friend. It's not like your judge, and it's not horrible. This is where a lot of people often get uncomfortable, but let's reframe how you think about website data. I love data. By the way, the more I get into business, the more amped up I am to talk about data. They're not just cold numbers, right? They're not just like success indicators. They're insights. They help you understand how people interact with your work online. Simple metrics tell you important stories, like which artwork captures people's attention the most, which pages are they looking at the most. These kind of metrics will help you understand like what you should feature prominently and what's most popular with your audience. Then there's like some other really fun things like how are people finding your website? Is it through social media? Is it through Google searches? Is it through direct visits? For me, years ago, I discovered that most people were coming to my website through Google searches. I was working so hard on Instagram only to realize that people were finding me through SEO. And so I switched my effort. I switched where I put my energy. That kind of metric and that kind of data is so valuable to you as a business owner. You can also look at things like how long people are spending looking at your work. So that can inform you like, where are they falling off or how interested are they? Which pages are getting visited the most? That way you'll know what kind of information matters the most to people who are visiting your website. Is it the about me? Is it the contact me? Is it the for sale? These kind of metrics will help you know, okay, when someone comes to my website, this is what they want to know. And then there's other things like you can know when your audience is most active and things like that. That kind of gets into the more, granular things. But overall, you want to think of these insights like feedback you get in a gallery showing. They're going to help you understand how people engage with your work, but in a digital space. So if you were in a gallery, you could watch and see which pieces call to people, which pieces are getting visited by the most people. You can literally watch them walk over to it. And that will inform, oh, this one catches curiosity, etc. You can do that with certain metrics on your website as well. And then here's where it all comes together. You use that information to make small, intentional adjustments that will better serve your audience and your business goals. Okay, truth number 5. You deserve to own and control your digital presence. This truth is absolutely fundamental to your success online. Just as you would never, ever let someone else own, the rights to your artwork without paying for it or whatever, you need to maintain control of your digital assets and presence. So understanding a few basic technical concepts isn't about, becoming a web developer, and it's going to feel alien at first. But as a business owner, you really want to be empowered with basic information. So here's what you should always kind of control. You always want to know that you own your domain name. This is like your digital signature or your digital address. Your hosting registrar, that's where your website lives online. So you can buy a domain from many services and then you host it online through a hoster, a hosting site. That person or that business that you're hosting with is essentially like the land that your website is built on. It's not the address, but it's where all of the building materials exist. Okay. And then you want to always have access to and own your content. So everything that you create and share. Usually we use website builders to bring all those pieces together. And that becomes like the house, right? So you want to know that you have access to being able to build that house, however that looks. Your admin access essentially is the ability to make changes when you need to. And you want to think of these elements all as the foundation of your own online gallery or studio. And you may hire someone to help you make up these improvements or, set them up. But you should always hold the keys, right? You always want access to all of this. That ensures that you can make updates when you need to, as your art changes or your needs change. It makes sure that you control how your work is presented, and it allows you, again, to adjust your site as your business grows. So maintaining your professional independence, protecting your digital assets, all of that comes with making sure you always have access to those 3 things. You know me, and I don't like to teach or educate from a place of fear, but there are some website services out there that I've heard of that will essentially control a person's access to their own website. So if you decide to stop working with them at some point, or you decide to stop paying them the monthly upkeep fee, then you essentially lose access to your website that you've built and used over years. So you want to just double check and always make sure that you are the owner of these assets that you're building. There are a lot of very ethical people at building websites for clients too. I'm not trying to say that industry is predatory or anything like that, but I just really want you to know before you get stuck in a situation that's really hard to get out of. Okay. And then, it's really about leaning in and again, allowing yourself to learn. I had a student who was extremely skeptical. He took the email marketing course that I offer, and he was so skeptical at first, which I love because he was jumping in anyway. And he actually talked to me about his skepticism, and we were able to talk about it, which is great, right? But eventually he kind of went from skeptical to successful by focusing on his end goal completely and embracing the learning process. This person dug into, he was using MailChimp for his email service provider. He dug into their tutorials. He asked for help from them. He asked me really clear questions. How does this work? How does this work? Which way do I do this? Will this actually have the impact I think it will? He was really willing to learn, and he was of an older generation, which I think is an important lesson for anyone who was not born, in the in the 2000s. We can still learn, and we can still let ourselves discover all of this, and it will only be better for us in the long run to do it. The longer you avoid technology, the longer you stay away from it, the harder it is to reaccess it. That's not to say that if you've been avoiding it for a long time, you can't. I'm not trying to say that, but it compounds upon itself. And again, you just want to have sort of a playful mind about it. It's also really helpful to have a clear end goal, and that'll help you overcome those tech hesitations. And also, you guys, let me tell you, technology frustration is completely normal and manageable. I deal with it often. I have all of the best systems I can set up in place. And no matter what, somewhere something goes wrong and I have to deal with it. There are days when I get very frustrated, so I will set things down and I will leave them for another day. Or I will just push through, take some deep breaths, and remind myself that in the big scope of things, this problem solving is not like heart surgery, right? There's also so many available resources that will support you in your learning. Tons of online videos, tons of, blog posts and tutorials and things like that can help you start to understand tech in a way you haven't before. Also, tech skills build gradually through practice. I don't even know how long ago it was, but I was so confused by the concept of the domain and the hosting and the web builder and all of that. But once I started to really get in there and make sure I understood how it all worked, now I get it. And it just makes perfect sense to me. But literally probably 2.5, 3 years ago, I was still completely confused on what those things mean and how they function together. The result of the learning curve is absolutely worth it if you're a small business owner. So here's what that means for you right now, today. If you are just starting out, focus on clarity before complexity. So you want to prepare your very basic content before you worry about creating a big, elaborate, groundbreaking website. You want to start simple so that you can learn as you go. And you really want to trust your artistic instincts. If you're thinking about hiring help, know what you're paying for, maintain ownership of your digital assets, and make sure you can easily update your own content. Don't ever let fear or a desire not to look at the problem drive your decisions. That's how you end up in situations that you have a hard time extricating yourself from. And remember, your website should serve your art business. It's not the other way around. Don't let anyone convince you that you need more than you do or that you can't understand this stuff. You are an artist. You're already used to learning new skills and tools. The internet needs your art, the world needs your art, and it needs your voice. And while the tech stuff might feel intimidating right now, remember that every artist who's rocking their online presence, who you're stoked about, they started exactly where you are. The only difference is that they took that first step. So take the time to understand these fundamentals now, and you'll save yourself a lot of time, money, and stress later. Your future self will thank you. And more importantly, your art will have the online home it deserves. Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. And if you found this valuable, please share it with any fellow artists who might need to hear the message. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and remember, you've got this.